here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of Frank Sweeney, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Has been in lots of interesting bands, including the June Brides, and also is currently in the Magic City Trio, alongside Revolving, Paint Dream and also The Ringer, which you'll find out about in this fascinating interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Frank, it's over to you.
Yeah, because I'm kind of a bit older than you. I was born in 1958, you know. So I was young enough there to or old enough to kind of be around when the Beatles sort of came about, you know, like that. So we'd see them on the TV and hear them on the radio, and everyone knew who the Beatles were. So about 63, I started hearing this sort of music, and now I think nowadays, yeah, it's still kind of my favourite music. There's loads of great music made, but it's the same way, I guess, that maybe like, I don't know, John Lennon and Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney, they probably think all the music they grew up with, like rock and roll, Elvis, that's their favourite music because it's the music they first heard and they first liked, and it's the same for me, really, you know.
Yes, you could only... Well, actually, you were only 5 then, whereas most people, it's like when you're about 14, 16, that sort of soundtrack of those years.
Yeah, and then it kind of went on. I think largely you had this sort of period, through glam rock, which music being kind of exciting again. And then, nothing happened until I was 18 in 76, and that's when sort of like punk came about. I saw Patti Smith in the Roundhouse in May 76, and that was the kind of a life-changing experience. You think, oh, this is brilliant, And then, the New York scene, we got kind of into that sort of music, the Ramones, Talking Heads, and,
Did you have any older brothers or sisters that gave you any...
brother is only 18 months older than me, so largely our tastes were much the same, except maybe as time kind of went on. It's funny, like, as we kind of grew older, I kind of liked, stuff like, long-haired bands, like Neil Young and that sort of thing.
Right. Oh, yes. Well, that's like, God, I thought you were going to say you liked, I don't know, Toto or Steel Ice.
No.
So was it Laurel Canyon you were sort of particularly fond of? Were you thinking?
Not particularly that, no, because more sort of Neil Young and Pink Floyd, those sort of prog rock bands with long hair. As my brother liked sort of like Roxy Music and David Bowie, and so we had these. But we are both the kind of people that were kind of looking for something else in terms of live music, and both of us kind of found it through punk. Our tastes kind of converged, and there was largely the same thing with punk. We had like guys who are heavy metal fans who wanted to see some decent live music that I hadn't seen before. The Roxy Music crowd and all that sort of thing. And people like me who like kind of 60s Stones and that sort of stuff. So largely the people who got into punk were largely all wanted. They had one thing in common. They liked different types of music until they saw punk, and then largely I think they had this thing in common that they all wanted a new live music scene. I think that's how the thing came up.
Yes, that's right. So when you got like 74, you would be 16. Did you leave school at that age, or did you go on to do A levels?
No, I left school at 15.
Right, you were very keen, weren't you?
I had to get a job working as a surveyor on a building site. An apprentice surveyor, chain boy. Chain is an old measurement for, what was it, 27 feet, I think, a chain. Yeah, 9 yards. Is it 9 yards? 9, 3, 20. So a chain boy. Yeah, chain was an old imperial measurement.
Right, like God, I've never come across this.
Colloquial term they know as a chain boy is like the apprentice, So I started working there at 15. I took O levels, but I left school before I was 16, though.
Right. And did you grow up in London? Was it?
Yeah, Southeast London. Yeah, where I kind of live now still. Still in Southeast London. In fact, I rarely lived anywhere else other than Southeast London. 6 months in Dublin, and about 6 months in Southwest 9 in Brixton. But other than that, it's always been Southeast London, So
Well, yes, quite. And what was your first gig? What was your first gig?
the first
Live concert you went to see?
Oh, the first one. Oh, that's easy. Argent at the Rainbow.
Right.
Yeah, because I had friends, and that was the only band they wanted to see, So they didn't like anything else. So they liked Argent, so I thought, oh no, we'll go and see Argent with them, And then I didn't really go and see many gigs. Saw a couple of terrible bands at the Marquee, and then largely punk took over, and then you go and see bands regularly,
Were you playing guitar or violin at that stage?
No, I just learning guitar, I started learning guitar around 76, because I think you heard music that you could play on the guitar. You didn't have to be Steve Howe or have a fantastic setup of guitar effects or a great guitar to play that type of music. To play and the Ramones and Patti Smith. And that's how I got into playing guitar. No, I didn't learn violin, viola. For quite a good while afterwards, 1981, I just sort of read an article about John Cale. I said, and there's a viola in the shop down the road,
right?
And it's been there for ages. I thought, hey, they reduced it in price to 45 quid. I think I'll buy it. Yeah, and that was it. I just got into it that way. I hadn't been playing long by the time I did the first record with June Bride. I think playing viola, I'd only been playing for about 3 years. I think 2 years. And,
yes.
And
so how did you navigate through the 70s when sort of punk sort of hit, obviously in London? I mean, I don't think punk ever really sort of made it to East Anglia. We were sort of very backward. It was kind of a rural kind of countryside of status quo and lots of denim and headbanging. But yes, punk was it never really happened actually in the towns of East Anglia. So was it much more emphasized and obvious at that stage? In 76 to 78?
I think it kind of got going really after Bill Grundy, when everyone was in on it, after Bill Grundy. But I think Viv Albertine from the Slits, she said it was, I suppose, the beginning, or was the end of the beginning, when it kind of built after Bill Grundy. You said it was never as good after that, and I kind of agree with that. Okay, it's not nice to say it was elitist, but you had, the people that you went to were people who were into it, but they weren't into it just to go and gob at the bands or have a fight with each other, as it eventually became,
Yes.
And also, you had the different factions, like bloody, towards the end of like Screwdriver and Skinheads getting involved and all that sort of thing. But right that period between sort of like the spring of 76 up until Bill Grundy is a very different kind of scene, like everyone kind of knew each other. You'd see the same people at gigs and all that sort of thing, but the whole thing became a lot bigger and, not much fun. You felt like it was no longer like a little club, it's like everyone was in. Because I remember I worked for British Telecom, for instance, and, and so the kind of music I liked from that time was like, Patti Smith, Jonathan Richman and the Ramones and stuff like that. Whereas these guys who, a few months before, they were into, I don't know, heavy metal or stuff like that, or Sailor, or but they were lambasting me because I didn't like the Stranglers or the Jam or something like that. Because I didn't like. I said, no, I don't really like the Stranglers that much, and I don't really like the Jam that much. No, this is the music, and they were like, God, you idiot! Why aren't you into this stuff? And you think, God, about 6 months ago, you said you hated this stuff.
Yes,
that's the way. That's the way it kind of went.
It did. Well, I remember doing an interview that I think his name's Andy Blade, who was in.
Oh yeah,
Eater. That's it, and he looked at his audience and thought, actually, I'm going to quit this, because they all had that Sid Vicious lookalike, and it was like, that's not quite what we thought of punk, but it's become, and then I remember watching one night many years ago, one of those, I don't know, punk at the BBC and seeing sort of Sham 69 thinking, God, this is really awful.
It's the other, yeah, I know.
This is really, the blokes in the band didn't even particularly look punky. They obviously were just into rock bands, but it
Yeah,
was just like if the kids are united, and it's like, God, this is totally tedious, isn't it?
yeah, it
Sorry
wasn't my.
if you like
Well,
Sham 69, well,
no, never a band I liked. It's kind of, I know that they
they
didn't.
were sort of meat and potatoes, weren't they? They weren't. There was no stuff. I mean, interesting enough, the New York punk scene is so avant-garde, and that's a slight sweeping statement. But when you listen to some of those records, you know, bringing their jazz fusion, sort of odd percussion, sort of odd instrumentation. You know, it was like, you know, the rhythms were very different. They weren't just rock rhythms and power guitars, were they? It was like,
No, that's right. I think I think the Ramones, to a certain extent, because the way they did it, he's got 2.5 minute songs played in exactly the same format. That was almost art rock, but it was seen as really simple. But no, it was so simple. It was art, you know, like art. And then you had Talking Heads and Blondie, and Pierre Ubu, and then even New York started taking, you know, again the Colds to Newcastle. You know, the Dead Boys became a band copying the Clash or the Sex Pistols thing, and then it kind of went, again that kind of. It went downhill, but there's some great band. Pierre Ubu, the Modern Lovers.
yes.
Talking Heads. Who else? And there was, you know, guys that never kind of got out of it. You know, people on the Orc Records label like the Feelies and the early Television. You know, there's you know some great.
There was another. I think there's another label called, is it Z Records, ZE, and that was
yeah.
And there was a compilation that was put together, I think, by Brian Eno.
No way.
Yeah, and I mean, it's God, it's interesting, but it's quite hard work because it's musically, you know, you got James Chance, you got Lydia Lunch, and
another band called Mars.
Yeah, I mean, incredibly artistic, and there was that sort of the two main clubs at the time, CBGB's and Max's Kansas City, the latter having the Andy Warhol crowd. So you had all that kind of sexual fluidity. I mean, there was not much of that going on with Sham 69, was there? I
don't think so. Yeah, like, and they kind of eventually got attracted, you know, a skinhead audience, even though Jimmy Percy was dead against that sort of thing, you know, in his favour. But you know, and I think he found it difficult to handle because I didn't want this either, you know.
No.
I think Phil, he had a gig. He was offered a gig, I think, in Phil Nelson when he was doing his solo stuff. He was offered a gig in Plymouth supporting Sham 69. He wisely says, "No, I don't think I'll do that."
Yeah, it would have been a difficult audience, wouldn't it?
It would have been very difficult.
So as the 70s came to a close, and obviously we get, you know, Thatcher in 79, and then the glorious 80s with the Falkland War and the miners' strike and Greenham Common. How do you sort of how did you navigate that, and were you still at that stage working for British Telecom now?
No, I stopped working for British Telecom in '77. I actually got fired from them because they were kind of very strict in terms of what time you came into work, and they placed me all over London. And I was living in Camberwell. There's no bus, no where I lived was in kind of deep Camberwell, where there was no bus, no tube, so you always had to go to Camberwell Green or Peckham or whatever, the Elephant Castle to get a train. And so I was constantly late all the time. So eventually fired me. So I stopped working for British Telecom there. You know, about '77. Yeah,
the Silver Jubilee.
Yeah. So then I was out. I stayed out of work for about a year, and then my mum got me a job working in a kitchen for a catering company called Ring and Brymer, an old catering company who'd been around in the city since about 1690 or something like that, you know.
Yes.
So I worked with them for a few years and did you know, I started in as like essentially just a helper, but ended up being a kind of larder chef in there, and but yeah, so I did that for a while, and then I got into bands. I had my own band, just playing sort of punk kind of stuff and covers and that. And my first band I got was a band called The Ringing, which my brother.
Oh yes.
And play the viola with that. Even though again I haven't been playing very long. Playing viola for about 2 years is what the equivalent of playing guitar for about 6 months or something like that. You're not very good after 2 years.
Yes. So,
But
how did you musically navigate the post-punk period? I mean, you probably weren't. Were you into the Blitz Kids? I don't want to sort of.
no, my brother was into that side. He was kind of, it followed on from the stuff he liked,
Right.
growing up. But no, I was again
The
back
Blitz
into.
Kids didn't have. What about goth? Did you go to the Batcave? Was
No,
that?
never went there. No, no, I
Well,
kind of, I don't know. No, I think in the early '80s I was kind of into fairly mainstream pop stuff. I think that was what I thought it would be a great thing to do.
well, yes,
You know,
embrace the charts. Then,
yeah.
yeah, did you? So, 83, which is one of those great years, isn't there? Which everyone knows. I'm going to say the Smiths appear, don't they? The
Yes,
indie
that's right.
pop, and
Yeah.
sort of indie pop, I feel kind of starts in 83 with that particular outfit
Yeah,
from Manchester.
I don't know. I think Orange Juice from '80 to '81, the post-punk
Yeah,
thing was
actually, you're
going from
probably
that, and I
right.
think
Actually,
I
I'm easily
think
persuaded, aren't
yeah.
I? Yeah. So,
So,
the
yeah, and
yes,
that was the band I really liked. They had all sorts of sounds from the Velvets and all that sort of thing, which is one of my favorite bands, the Velvet Underground. Yeah, which I discovered in 1974 after I discovered the Velvet Underground after getting a record out of the record library, a kind of a compilation. But hey, it was a pretty good one. They had Sister Ray, Waiting for the Man on it, and that's how I got into the Velvet Underground, which probably pointed me towards John Cale and the viola in the end.
yes,
But that was
'cause
other music that I found, hey, I can play guitar along with these songs, because you didn't need to be, an expert. You need to be, but obviously that's not to undermine their achievements. They're fantastic musicians. But you could make a version of the Velvet Underground. So that's about 74, and that was the band I kind of liked from about 74 up until punk came along. And maybe the Stones or something like that. But yeah, so between 74, when I kind of finally left prog rock behind, the Velvet Underground was up until punk. And obviously, you're going to be attracted to punk because there are a lot of bands that said, the Velvet Underground were influenced by them and all that sort of thing.
yeah, and
So,
I don't know. I was going to say there was the Velvet Underground, or Captain Beefheart, or Frank Zappa, which the latter I never got into. I did quite like Captain Beefheart. There's a couple of albums which I think, not the classic, track marks
yeah.
replica. I pretend to like that, but frankly, it's too difficult for me. But there's some other ones which are a bit more straightforward. And I must admit, I did like the Velvet Underground album because I'd sort of got one of those. My brother had one of those books, classic albums that
All right,
that was the only way.
yeah,
There was no internet, obviously,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was one of those records that I went to the library after seeing this
yeah,
in the sort of, I don't know, top 100 or
yeah.
something, and being quite surprised because it starts with Sunday Morning, doesn't it? And you think, oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
it
expect
is a
that.
kind of
And
like
then
a pop tune, yeah,
and then once that's out of the way,
yeah,
it's like, oh, okay, this is
yeah.
now quite different. But yeah, it's an amazing piece of work actually. And it was Transformer, the Lou Reed
Oh,
album,
right, yeah.
which again gets when you're young, you sort of get that one as well, don't you? You
Yeah, that's it.
embrace,
Yeah,
you kind of embrace those kind of
yeah,
classics, don't you? It was David Bowie that I was kind of Changes one, and then from then it was Ziggy and Aladdin and
yeah,
Diamond
yeah.
Dogs and then Low. So yes, that was my go-to person. So then so the Ringing, it
Oh, yeah,
starts, doesn't it, in sort of is it 83? So your brother has got this band,
yeah,
Frank.
yeah.
No, that's you, Nick,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
with Jenny on violin,
Yeah, that's it.
Dirk on bass,
Yeah,
and Chris on
yeah,
drums.
yeah, yeah.
So was he inspired with, what was he inspired with at this point?
I think it's kind of that kind of I think it must have had that kind of blitz kind of feel about it, that type of like I don't really know much about that kind of music, but that kind of feel. Yeah, it wasn't punk, and it was like, and so he didn't have an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar, 12 string, and he wanted just something to make it not just a guitar band, so he got me along to play viola, and what happened was that we just played a few local gigs, and then I met this guy in a pub, and he was in part of something called the Greenwich Performance Collective, and they were like, it's largely like, okay, but one of them were a bunch of old hippies or whatever, but they weren't old hippies really. They're kind of post punks, I guess, and they were getting musicians together and putting on gigs. They were a very large promoter at some stage. They put on gigs at Thames Polytechnic, which was the real Southeast London venue for for a lot of punk bands and that sort of thing, and so so we did quite a few things with that, you know.
So that's the Greenwich Performance Collective, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, right, because they also put a compilation
That's
cassette
right.
out, don't they?
Yes. Yeah.
Here's the Shit, that it's titled, which is at the time a classic. A classic.
Yeah, you know,
isn't it?
like the Live at Thames Poly LP that came out. A lot of those were kind of Greenwich Performance Collective gigs, or put on by Thames Poly, because there's one like which had, I think, Sonic Youth and TVP is on it. June Brides are on there. A double LP that came out, I don't know, probably about 84, 85 or something like that, you know.
Yes, my God, there's some interesting bands here. Cancer Club, which I've never come across. I mean, most of these bands I'm not going to know. Spring Hippies, Well-Known Wankers. That's not one we heard on the airwaves for daytime. Simon Bates never played the Well-Known Wankers. Government Scum was the song. I might have to track that down.
That's not like, I don't recall that. They must have done another one, because they brought out a tape, and say the Ringing were on that, but that doesn't sound like the one.
No, there was another compilation called Dennis,
that's that real one, Dennis. Yeah.
Oh, it starts with that favourite band of ours, your heterosexual
violence. Yes.
Incredible story.
Yeah.
And there you go. It's all good. Cancer Club appears in that one too.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
Oh, right.
So,
and the only band,
there's a lot of bands that I've never heard of before.
The only band I kind of like was really good band. Where are they from now? The Dead Celebrities. That's on there. They were one of the best bands on there. They had a great set of really good sort of like 3-chord punk songs. You know, they were a really good band. But they all kind of shared the same place, and internal conflicts, I think, just broke them up. But they were good. They could have done something.
Musical difference. Was it musical difference?
And maybe possibly relationships as well. But
excellent. Rock and roll.
But they could have been a contender. I think the Dead Celebrities. I think they had some great songs, you know.
Yes, but then you got your single out on the Pink label, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were the second, I think, record, maybe the third after every conversation, I think. But so anyway, with the Greenwich Performance Collective, there was also a Lewisham Performance Collective, and so they said, they're trying to hook up and get joint gigs, and so this was October '83, and there was a gig on a band. They said, there's a band called June Brides. They're pretty good, and so nothing to do on a Friday night, and so we went to a pub called the George and Dragon in Lewisham Greenwich borders, and Your Heterosexual Violence were playing.
Nice.
And the June Brides were playing, and I thought
who was headline, by the way?
I think June Brides were.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I thought the June Brides were absolutely fantastic. And one of those things, God, why can't I? It's like, because Orange Juice was a band. I said, God, I wish I could join that band. And June Brides was another band. God, I wish I could join their band. They were fantastic. So, it was Phil Simon. More or less the original line. Phil Simon. Who's the other? Phil Simon. Ace playing the bass, and a guy called Chris Nynam playing the drums. I think they also had augmented by a drum machine, I think. But anyway, I thought they're a really great band. There's one of those, God, how could I ever join that band?
So they sort of formed in '83. So I guess did the Ringing, was that kind of the one single double, with a B-side, a couple of live dates? Was that the end of the band? Did you? No,
they carried on playing quite a while. We did quite a lot of gigs in the end. With them, I just got too busy with the June Bride. So
you slightly jumped ship and
I did. Did they get another violin player? No, they didn't. Because they had Jenny, who was loads better than me anyway. She could play all the stuff I could play anyway.
So had the June Brides recorded anything by then?
Oh, they might. Nothing in a commercial sense. They might have done a tape they circulated around, or maybe some with the Lewisham Collective. But no, they hadn't done anything like that. This would be in '83.
Yes.
So there was another band on that night called Bliss, who were kind of like male female everything but the girl type duo, and I thought, and they did a version of Candy Says, and the guy called Tim Buckley, not that one,
Right.
And I'm still friends with him. A guy called Tim Buckley. He kind of weren't playing the chord right. It's not an easy song to play. You're kind of new to it, and I thought, I know, I'll play with him. I said, look, I can join you. I'm a viola player, and I think I can help your sound, and also I can teach you the right chords that Candy says. And so I ended up getting into. So that was my kind of ticket into the June Brides eventually. I didn't see it at the time. So I tried to play this band called Bliss. They had some great songs as well.
Was it Bliss or Blitz?
Bliss, Bliss for sugar.
Right. I haven't. Did they ever record anything?
No, they didn't. I think they might. No, they did some more or less the same. Some of the lineup did as a band called the Ambivalent Pilots, and they may have appeared on Dennis, I think. And that's one of the better songs in that one, actually. I think is that Ambivalent Pilots on there.
Oh right, God, it's
Dennis.
Let's have a look at Dennis.
How have you got all these things in front of you?
Yes, I know. So just what was the name of that band? God, this is very
Ambivalent Pilots, is it?
Ambivalent.
Are they on there?
I can't see the Ambivalent Pilots.
Maybe they're probably going under a different name because I think this is the way things worked.
Yes.
If you go through the listing, I'll tell you which one. Anyway, it's one of the best songs on there. Anyway, it's not Spring Hippies. It's not that, and it's not.
So it's definitely the second compilation, Dennis.
No, it's the first one. It's the Dennis, the first one.
The first one. So you've got
the one with the incredible story on it. That one. That one. Yeah.
Christ Died in Springtime.
No, ain't that one. No.
Pyramid Rise, BBC, Split Party. Right. I Can't Sing the Pickup, Cost of Living. There Is No Fate Worse Than Death, Countdown, Ash Wedding Wednesday, Gun in Your Pocket, Hollywood Talk, Dead Celebrities, Skeleton Fields, and Guided Youth, An Incredible Story. So,
nothing springs to mind. Anyway, they had one song on Dennis, which was a really good song. Probably one of the best ones on there. But anyway, so I hung out with Bliss. We did a few gigs together, and also because they knew the June Brides. They said, "Hey, we met this guy who plays the other, and he's full of himself, and he said he could improve our band,
Yes,
and I think that's how the June Brides got to know me. And then I saw Simon, I think, at the gig the following week, I think like that. And we got chatting, and then I think they invited me over in the January of ~84, to play with them. And
yes, and had they got signed to the Pink label by then?
No, that sort of time, I get the feeling that around very early '84, maybe not then, maybe February, March. Simon Down, who wanted to get his own label going, he was working kind of alongside Creation with Alan McGee and Dick Green. He was kind of working not in a major function, but he knew them and stuff like that. So and I think he wanted to get his own kind of label going, and so and I think the June Brides were seen as a great choice because they're a great band,
Well, yes, and did it feel like when you met them and sort of started playing and rehearsing, did it feel like there was a good chemistry and energy?
I think there was. I think we're kind of from different things. Remember, I was the only one who came from London. They come from different parts and also had the common bond of being at the LSE or some other thing. I think Ace, the bass player. He'd come from Shrewsbury with Simon, and Phil had known Simon from the LSE, so they had a lot of things in common, and also they shared the same house. So in some ways, I was kind of an outsider who come from London, and I was 4 years older than them. Which
so they were students, were they?
They were students at the LSE, and I think Simon and John was there as well, but he later played trumpet, but he wasn't playing with the band then.
Right.
But they should. I think Phil left. It didn't finish his course, but I think Simon did. Yeah.
Yes. But, so you went into the studio. Your first single, "In the Rain," and Sunday to Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Yes. Were you quite influenced, or were they quite influenced on those kind of kitchen sink film dramas from the 50s, like Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, Kind of Loving, Taste of Honey? Was that on their radar?
I don't really recall Phil talking about them much, maybe they,
There's a
maybe
poetic,
things
there's a
sunk in.
poetic quality to their
Yeah,
songs.
yeah. That's sort. I think he had, that kind of knack with words, to have things kind of, to explain situations with how people interacted
Yeah.
with each other. And he had, he's very good at, every conversation, a classic one. Like when I've sang it in recent years, you think, God, those are such fantastic words that kind of explain, the human condition that often exists between couples. If that's what it's about, maybe.
And did you
Maybe
feel
not.
like the June Brides, they fitted into the indie scene quite smoothly at that stage?
Yeah, because I think largely it was still kind of post-punk, and Phil was a huge fan of the postcard stuff, and I think that was more that the band wanted to kind of follow that kind of line, that kind of spare spindly guitars rather than chug chug chug, that type of thing, or keyboards, or remember, there was that period where it went through kind of jazz like Rip Rig and Panic, and that's so yeah, like they obviously didn't want to follow that thing. So I think it was that kind of postcardy sound. I think that they wanted to follow, and I think and yes, I wasn't going to complain because that's the sort of stuff that I liked. Yeah.
Yes. And there was definitely, I suppose that, I mean, I always felt that with each, that during that period and probably elsewhere, the next couple of decades, there's kind of there's always a new wave of young people coming in wanting to discover their bands.
Yeah.
Bands that have been around 5 years feel a bit old hat and have done the circuit
True.
and are all starting to sort of, I don't know, lose the plot. Whereas you just want to discover a band for yourself. And I would imagine that there was a kind of a glorious period of the sort of early to mid 80s of bands coming through. And there was that scene, wasn't there? Cherry Red Records brought out one of those compilations that had a lot of interest and stuff. And then you had people like Everything But the Girl had sort of come along. And then, yes, various other sort of, I don't know, I mentioned the Smiths, but I can't remember when bands like the Wooden Tops and...
I think they must have been before the June Brides, because I think we did a gig supporting them once, and they were quite well established, and Felt, of course, who'd been around from about, I think, 82 or something. No,
yes,
78.
I think
78. That Felt with the pre-Smiths.
I think Lawrence was trying to release an album every year, and there was also Momus, so there was some sort of quite interesting and quirky, and also, like I mentioned, the Living Room, Alan McGee had set up that venue and also had got Creation Records. So did June Brides, you mentioned that you never got the tour bus or the transit van, but were you constantly did you get sort of rung up a lot and say, could you come and play a gig tonight?
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah, because I think they had to, at one stage. Yeah, before I think early on, I don't think they had a phone. I think. Oh no, the bass player was the only one with a phone. Therefore, he had the number for all the gigs and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it was very much like that. And but so the first gig we played was at a pub called the Old Tiger's Head. I played was the Old Tiger's Head in Lewisham, and then I think the supporting ATV, and then I think the next one was Living Room supporting the Jasmine Minks.
Right.
So and I think that's when I think we first met Simon Down. I think because he was there and he said that he was kind of keen on getting a label and together, and he'd like the June Brides to be on it, because I think a lot of the sort of the bands that were probably up his alley, the Jasmine Minks or whatever, they were all kind of heading towards Creation, so.
Yes, the Pink label did have a really good roster at that stage, and there was also Dan brought out the his label Wham, didn't he? As well?
Oh yeah, that was predated both of those, both Creation and Pink, because I remember he had to stop calling it Wham, didn't he? Because George Michael's lawyers got on the phone to him to say people would get confused, and so I don't know how they would.
Yes, I know. Club Tropicana and Dan Tracy.
They think, if people do get confused, they buy Dan Tracy's records? I don't know what's wrong with that.
Yes, well, quite. I know, because with the Pink label, you had, was it Jamie Wednesday was on it, McCarthy, I believe, and
Wolfhounds, of course.
The Wolfhounds, God, they were amazing, weren't they? And that Petrol Emotion suddenly appeared.
Of course, yeah.
So there was a kind of good roster, but then you
label, and then
you signed to Marc Riley's In Tape, didn't you, at this stage?
Yeah, I kind of wasn't part of the again because I didn't live with them, didn't live in the same house as them. As to why, I think they just felt that that Simon wasn't really one. It was a shame, like, because we had the DLP, which is like a huge indie hit, and at the time, every conversation, I think they're both #1 in the indie charts at the same time,
Did you were you ever in the John Peel Festive 50? Can you remember if that was?
Must have been.
I would have thought so. Actually, I would have voted for you.
Yeah, every conversation. We only did one session with him. We did a Janice Long and John Peel. I think we only did one session, but I'm sure
that was 85. You did your John Peel session, wasn't it?
Oh, was it that one? I thought, yeah, it must have been. Yes, I get a feeling it probably was, because 86 we only lasted not until halfway through. So, and most of that was, we did a little tour of, say, Holland and Germany, and we did the thing with the tour with the Smiths. So I don't think there'd be much time for us to get the John Peel session. But I think, the Janice Long and John Peel must have both been in 85, I think.
Right.
Which was our kind of peak year, I think, really.
85, yes. No Place Called Home. But I do remember sort of going off and buying This Town EP after John Peel played it. It was just an absolute classic, actually. So you mentioned you supported the Smiths. Was that on several dates?
Yeah, they did a tour of Ireland. It's a tour of the west coast of Ireland, or the east coast of Ireland, what I'm talking about. What it was, they had a gig in Dublin and a gig in Belfast, and to fill in as a stop on the tour and just to support the tour a bit more, they had another gig in the middle in Dundalk, which is kind of equidistant between Belfast and Dublin.
Yeah.
So this when the Smiths were quite a big band, like the I think that the stadium they played in Dublin was an old boxing stadium. That must have had about 6,000 people. So they weren't a small, audiences. But amazingly, this hotel in Dundalk was in a function room that held about 200 people. So anyone who liked the Smiths or was a fan of the Smiths would have had a huge treat to be able to see them in such a small venue.
Right, my God. And the audience must have been very on your side, I would have thought, and enthusiastic at this stage.
Yeah, they did. I know at least 3 of the audience in Dublin were on my side because they're my cousins. Right.
That would have been very disappointed if they had been.
Yeah, but no, they thought it was dead cool to be able to get in on the guest list and all that sort of stuff.
That was showbiz, because there's another brilliant band from Ireland, which is the Woodbees. I know there's several Woodbees, aren't there? But not the Would-Be Goods. There was the Woodbees who had I'm Hardly Ever Wrong. But I think they were more the late 80s at that stage.
Oh, right.
So the Smiths had brought out Meet His Murder around 85.
I reckon, yes, I think so, yeah. I think it was, if it hadn't come out, they were still singing it, that song. So I think they must have brought it out, because what else they have? They had Meet His Murder, Queen is Dead, Strange Ways We Become. Yeah, I reckon Meet His Murder would have been out by then. Yeah,
because there was there's the Hatful of Hollow compilation, wasn't there? Yeah, 84, the first album. So it must have been around there. And then they did various compilations. The World Won't Listen, but that's a bit later. Yes.
So we did this tour, and at the beginning, because I don't know whether it still goes on. At the time, if you're the support band and you got a tour with a big band, the idea was you had to pay a contribution, shall we say? I won't say kickback, because I said it. A contribution.
Yeah, you mustn't say that word.
A contribution to help the tour. So, but the Smiths said, "No, we're okay with that. You don't have to do that. We don't agree with that sort of thing." So the Smiths management or whatever said, "You don't have to do that sort of thing." So we thought, oh, great. We don't have to try and club together a few £1,000. So anyway, so we did the tour, and we didn't have a lighting guy or a sound guy. We did have a sound guy, a guy called Dennis, who did our sound, but obviously he's used to doing our sound in small pubs and venues rather than a huge stadium. Anyway, we got to Belfast. We did the gig at Belfast, and we're kind of getting ready to go. And then, of course, the Smiths chief roadie came up to me and said, "Where's our money?" So obviously, no one had told that giving the Smiths a contribution to the tour was totally separate from giving the roadies a contribution to the tour. So essentially, like,
God.
so it's like, where's somebody? So we haven't not getting paid, but we did. I think we got paid £300, but essentially that went on every, all sorts of stuff. So the roadie had a big row with this roadie about. So where's our money? Goes, those lads are depending on that money to go home with and all that sort of thing. I said, look, no one told us this, and the guy, the Smiths tour manager said, like, I'm going to report you to your record company. I don't know what he expected them to do. What's Intake going to do? But it was, looking back, it was quite, it's quite funny looking back at it. But at the time, it felt like, this roadie bloody having a bit. I thought, oh no, he's going to get his mates. But but I think he was just, maybe he was just trying it on. But we didn't exchange blows or anything like that. But it was like, I said, look, no one told us we had to pay anything. Like he said, look, everyone pays. That was his line.
Blimey,
it was quite an interesting story, an interesting end to the tour.
Well, yes, well, people don't know that. I mean, that would have spoiled the start of the gig, I would imagine, or the vibe. It wasn't peace, love, and understanding.
They didn't kind of say, oh, you want some payment for this, which they could have said right at the beginning, But also, we had the Smiths lights. What were you going to do otherwise? Play in the darkness with no sound.
Yes.
So I'm afraid, but anyway, so that was it. But hopefully, and of course, no one reported us to our record company, or if they did, Jim Cambata from Intake didn't say anything to us.
How strange. Did the June Brides ever do merchandise? And did you ever have tour T-shirts or tour any T-shirts?
No, only on our second wave, we kind of, when we kind of got back together after the hiatus. Phil had some T-shirts made, but unless you're going to have 200 made, they're kind of quite expensive to make.
Yes, I would have. I just was thinking, the early years of merchandise, it probably hadn't quite trickled.
No, we didn't even sell our records after gigs and all that sort of thing.
Right.
We didn't think about having a merch table and all that sort of stuff.
So once you released This Town on Intape. That was kind of 86. Did the band...
No, we did No Place Called Home first on Intake.
Yes. So you did that in 85.
Yeah.
Which was... It had the B-side of On the Rocks, We Belong, and Joseph's Gone.
Yeah.
And then 86. Is this when the band finishes for the first time?
Yeah, more or less. I think we did a gig at Glastonbury, then another one at Leicester Polytechnic or Leicester University, and that was largely it,
So you did Glastonbury 86, and my first one was 87, because I was hoping to see Husker Du, but they played on the Friday afternoon, which was unfortunate. So what was it like? Because Glastonbury in those days was quite different, wasn't it? There was an indie stage, I believe, when I was there.
We played on the second stage, which... Then it was kind of a bit of a backwater, but now, it'd be a huge deal to be on the second stage in Glastonbury, But then, there's a few photographs. I don't think there's any recordings. There's a few photographs of us playing there, And who else? Craig Charles, I think, was the presenter, and the only other. Go-Betweens played. Go-Betweens were on there.
I would imagine. Did the Fuzzbox play?
I think they might have done. Yeah,
I just seem to sort of remember there was. Yeah, I mean, it was funny because people, when they ever see the lineup now, they're always like, "Oh my God, it's terrible! Not like the good old days." But when I've looked at the good old days, I'm often thinking, "Blimey, they're a bit not that good either." Actually, I mean, I think Rose Tin. So you did have Fuzzbox. You also had Ted Chippington, the Dream Syndicate, half man, half biscuit. The
Dream Syndicate. Oh, shit, I'm sorry, I missed that.
You missed that one, didn't you? Actually, and half man, the Jazz Butcher, Patfish. Micro Disney, the Nightingales, the Brilliant Corners. I mean, actually, I'm going to be one of those old people now who go, good old days. They were just brilliant, weren't they? They were fab. Actually, it was a good one, actually.
The Three Mustafas 3 are on there. I think they're listed, aren't they? They kind of played Balkan music.
Yes, I do.
Kind of a very niche kind of stuff. I don't think they fitted in, which kind of made them stand out because they didn't fit in playing that sort of music. That time when everyone else was guitars and everything like that,
Yes, and yes, that's right. And Robin Hitchcock and the Egyptians were there. The Wooden Tops were there. Rent Party. Yeah, that was...
Yeah, that's...
I'll take it all back. The good old days were so good, weren't they?
Yeah, pretty good lineup. There's very few bands that I hadn't heard of, because I like the Nightingales. They're pretty good. Yeah, I like them,
Yes, well, and yes. Well, I don't know. 87 was a bit muddy. I was a bit sort of traumatized, I think. But it was all right. Your first one, it's always good.
Yeah.
Did I mean, at that stage, we were sort of getting terribly angsty, and it was all, the SWP and TVP and all that kind of political stuff. Did Red Wedge slip into the consciousness of the June Brides at this stage?
Well, we kind of knew about it, but that was kind of on a different level. Yeah, we did miners' benefits and stuff like that.
Right.
But, yeah, we didn't sort of like. I think I don't know. I don't know. They'll have to say this themselves. I think the June Brides were kind of the kind of anarchists and all that sort of stuff. I think so. I could be wrong, but they didn't follow any kind of political dogma or political party or anything like that. But obviously they would have supported stuff like Red Wedge.
Yes, well, it was
miners' benefits. We did.
It was such a big thing, and there was like bands like the Redskins,
and
who were about, as well as Billy Bragg and Ranty Poets that we loved so much.
The Style Council were on that thing, and other. I think the Specials have probably done some stuff on that. But I think we did some miners' benefits, and that's as far as our politicking went. I think.
That's fair enough, actually. Yeah. And being a vegetarian, hopefully.
Yes.
So the famous cassette, you said no, didn't you? You just
I know. Yeah.
You said why do we need that sort of? We're nothing like the other indie bands in the 80s.
I think it was because. I think that we started early around, maybe the spring of '86, something like that. We started getting kind of reviews that were saying maybe they're not as good as we thought they were going to be, or they've lost something or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, I kind of make us think, well, we don't want to be pigeonholed with this sort of stuff, and it might help us getting us a new record deal. But what a stupid idea! Why did we do that? I think everyone, I think that's what everyone said, and I definitely didn't say no. We've got to be on it. I kind of went along with it,
Yes,
I didn't disagree, because you saw the reviews and we thought, we're going to get pigeonholed with all those other bands, when all the other bands probably got fantastic record deals.
Well, I suppose because I used to always go and send off my check. For those cassettes, because the NME brought out a lot during the 80s.
They did, didn't they? Yeah.
There was like country and blues and jazz and African reggae. Yeah. I mean, there were just so many, and I just found them kind of fascinated at that stage.
Sorry, Dave, can I just turn on the light?
Turn off light, because otherwise you're just going to stumble about in the dark there. So, yes. I know it's getting. Oh, blimey! I can see you now. That was quite amazing. So with indie bands, you're in the 80s. We're all excited about happy hour, aren't we, at the pub, and going to the Army and Navy store. I mean, we hear a lot in the 70s with bands like Hawkwind taking copious amount of drugs. Do indie bands of the 80s? Did they have sort of any exciting rock and roll drug stories? I mean, I just wondered, was it drinking and a little fag, or whether I wouldn't think the June Brides were sort of acid heads or speed freaks, but I mean, was there ever sort of like, oh, there's a joint here and stuff like that?
No, I think I was probably the only one. In fact, no, I wasn't really. I'd gone through my drug period by then.
Right,
from about 78 to about 80, I'd gone through mine, so I wasn't, particularly interested because I'd done it,
Right.
And the rest of them, no, they were not interested at all in that sort of thing. Smoking joints and all that sort of thing. No, they didn't do it at all.
No.
We went to Amsterdam, of all places. If you're into smoking dope, Amsterdam's a place for you, and they didn't even do it there.
Right.
They didn't even eat any. I think one of the other bands we were with had what they called space cake, which is obviously brownies with hash brownies. Yeah. And they didn't even join them. So no, they were totally uninterested in drugs. There's a funny story actually. We played a gig quite late in our day in Heaven, and supporting Erasure. The agency obviously got us this gig because like the two of us.
Well, yes, I sort of boggled there.
So so a guy came up and said, "Can I get you anything, lads?" And he said, "Oh," I goes, like some Coke or anything like that." And John Hunter said, "No, we've got a whole crate of it here. We'll never get through that lot."
Excellent.
But
yes.
so I'm not going to name any other bands, but other bands, were kind of into that or got into it,
Yes.
the June Brides, it just wasn't our thing, it wasn't, and
No,
I don't think it still is,
Well, no, you
yeah.
don't want to start when you're in your late 80s, 60s.
No, you didn't want to start taking drugs in your late 60s.
Well,
that's why you got to do it in your 20s. That's
you
why
got,
I did
yeah. So it's just prescribed
22.
drugs, really now, isn't it? So
yeah, that's right. It's like
your warfarin,
medication.
blood pressure, yes, heart, and the odd Ventolin.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then the band split. Can you remember? Was there a moment? Do you feel like there was a sort of oh yes, we sat down, or did people just stop?
Oh no, we sat down and dissolved. The thing. Dissolved the group. The Skinner's Arms on Camberwell New Road near Kennington, because
My
Kennington.
God! So you sat down in the pub and
I said, that's it. It's all over. Like that.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I don't think. Because I don't know why. I think it's like it. After Intake, I think the records on Intake were successful. I don't know whether Jim didn't want to. He didn't particularly like, from what I understand, he didn't particularly like This Town. He thought it wasn't a good single, but I thought it was a great single.
God, it's fantastic.
Yes, I know, yeah, but I don't think he liked that, and I don't think he kind of got behind it, and we were kind of thinking, and then we started looking for another record label. And we looked at Go Disc, but they said I think they already had the House Martins,
right?
Are probably more, I don't think they had as good songs as June Brides, but I think they're more musically proficient. I think in terms of what they did, maybe. But and then we tried Stiff. I think, but Stiff were kind of on the way out by then.
Yeah.
And we didn't really have anywhere to go to. And I think therefore we kind of lost. Oh yeah, kind of lost enthusiasm, and I think I think we would have still had plenty of gigs coming in, but I think maybe the gigs that we were getting would have been kind of a step backwards, rather than going from the heights of Glastonbury and touring with the Smiths and doing a tour of Europe, and then I think we might be back to trying to scrabble around for gigs. And so I think we've kind of and there's a bit of frustration in the band, and there wasn't much money coming in, from the records and all that sort of thing. So it was like we just sat down and said, "That's it, there."
Right. Oh God. You should have a blue plaque with the date of when it all finished.
I couldn't remember what day it was, but it was. But I know Phil. I think pretty soon he got something sorted out with Alan McGee on Creation. I kind of went with him on that, and I did a couple of the couple of records that you did, which again were pretty good. Waiting for a Change and 10 Miles. They were kind of a kind of progression from the later June Bride stuff in terms of what they sounded like. But
yes, so that's 86. So then.
Where do you in 87, yeah.
So where do you then go next? Where's your next kind of musical moment? Is that with Phil doing some of his solo stuff?
He did solo stuff with Phil. But say I kind of again I in the end it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I think we and Phil had a row, and I think I said, well, okay, these might be better musicians than June Brides, but the June Brides sounded loads better, so why don't we carry on doing that? That type of thing.
Yes.
And I stopped playing, which I know, it was rotten to end things that way. I didn't kind of like it. I don't think anyone did. But and then I can't remember what I did between 87 and I didn't do anything.
Did that kind of musical world, because again, I mentioned that you get another generation who starts to come in, and the end of the 80s, you have the ecstasy generation, and suddenly, and also grunge, but you also had dance music and the Chicago house scene and the Balearic beat. Did you at that point feel a little bit sort of waiting for something to happen, or did you go back to work?
Well, yeah, I can say I'd always been working. So I'd had jobs, just to, say, just to support myself, really. But I think, '87. That Phil had two records out then, and then around that time I was doing kind of, various bits and pieces in sessions and a lot of things. Didn't get a lot of money for them, but it kind of helped along. I did the Revolving Paint Dream LP with Andrew. I did a couple of those.
Yes.
And then I think Pool Valley with Blow Up. I did a few, and I think Imperial, Primal Scream. I played on that. That was the end of '85, I think. So that's before the band split up. I think. What was that?
Yes.
Yeah, but well, was that '86? I think the end of '86. I think you're right. I think maybe it's, when that record came out. Anyway, so I did a few bits and pieces on, and that's how essentially I keep my profile. I did '88. I did Space Blues with Felt, which I kind of really like. That's one of my favourite things of that kind of time. That I did on Creation. I worked with John Leckie as a producer, who's a fantastic guy. I was thinking, oh no, he's going to be one of these blokes that is expecting somebody who's a top-notch player and all that sort of thing, and he'd be telling me, no, do it this way. But no, he's a really nice guy. He let me do what I want.
Fantastic.
And then towards then I went to see a gig with I think Strawberry Switchblade playing with various members of Primal Scream and Andrew.
Right.
And I met John Leckie there, he should have been one producing that Primal Scream LP, by the way. Not he should have produced Sonic Flower Groove. I think it would have been fantastic. But anyway, he said to me, "Oh, I'm working with this band called Manchester, from Manchester, called the Stone Roses, and I really liked what you did on the Felt record. And if they're kind of interested in having something like that, could I give you a call?" And at the time, I knew about Stone Roses. At the time, they weren't considered to be a particularly great band. They weren't part of any kind of scene. They obviously had their own scene, I suppose. But I didn't say no. So I wasn't the man who turned down a chance to appear on the Stone Roses record. So I didn't say no. Obviously they did. When you hear the record, it wouldn't have been much of a place for me. But so that was kind of nice. But they still thought of me to ask me. So he must have liked.
Well, yes. And it was nice of you on Space Blues, the Felt track as well on Creation.
Yeah. I got one of you said it sounded like strings off a New York disco record. I thought, God, that sounds fucking great. That's what I wanted to sound like.
God, that's fantastic. That is good.
Yeah. So that was nice.
Well,
so
I think then Lawrence, he goes into Denim actually into the
'90s.
Yeah. He does an amazing song called The Osmonds, which is still one of the greatest songs of all time, I think. Lyrically, it just is beautiful.
Is that the one? It tells a story of the '70s and talks about
things. And being in Birmingham and the Birmingham bombing.
Yeah, and he talks about a guy called Timothy Davy. He was like a young kid who was arrested abroad for drugs, I think. It might be Timothy Davy. Yeah, it must have.
I just was mesmerised.
Yes, it's a great song. Yeah, I know.
It is a good one. Yeah. So your '90s then, you sort of crawled out of the '80s and then into the '90s. So what's your decade then?
'90s. I think from around like '90s. And then like indie dance was in, and the music had completely changed. And I did feel like a bit of a loose end, I think, as to what I was doing. And so I wasn't doing and the only live work I was doing was like the odd gig here and there where they'd have like an open mic or something like that, and you get up to do 3-4 songs, and that was the only thing I was kind of doing in a pub across the road from me. So it didn't take much effort to go there. I don't, and then around 91, 92, I got in with a couple of friends locally who'd been to on a little tour of the Czech Republic and Hungary, and they wanted to get together a kind of a group playing Eastern European music,
right?
And they wanted a viola player because that's one of the standard instruments. And so they said, why not do it? So that's what I started doing then. So this band called Transylvania Mania, like we met, I did that for about 2 years, So
were they doing sort of folk kind of circle dance sort of music? Because I know that became very popular in the '90s.
They did some stuff like that, where like I think they did one gig at the Cecil Sharp House, which is the centre of
the
kind
home of folk music.
Folk music, yeah. So we did that, but most of the time it's playing sort of local bars in sort of Deptford, New Cross, but the good thing was we got paid actually. We got paid quite well, what we were doing.
And didn't get threatened by a roadie, which is nice for a change.
Yeah, the sound meant people did it for nothing. Yeah. So I did that for a couple of years, and then what happened then? So then 94. 94. I obviously didn't do much in 94. I think I probably went back to looking for another band to play with, and then what happened was that Transylvania Mania had a number of people. It was kind of like a Fleetwood Mac, that everyone was having affairs with everyone else.
Oh, right. Even in the smallest of folk combos, it's still...
it was kind of funny. Like, you could draw like a kind of a diagram with arrows connecting all these people up romantically, yeah.
You could put your foot in it so many times with those situations as well.
Yeah, funny enough, it kind of lasted a bit longer than I thought. Anyway, I kind of left. They got, after I left, they got in a singer called Annie Holder, and they had a bass player already, a guy called Eddie Stampley, and so Annie joined, and then it didn't last long. The band were kind of one of those things. You could see a band self-destructing, and so it was kind of on its way out. So I got chatting with Annie, and she wanted to do there's this place in Stockwell which was being run by a band who were doing like a country night, and what they were trying to do was trying to strong arm the landlord into giving them more money because it was really successful. So Annie said, well, that landlord doesn't want them there anymore. He wants us to do it. So we got together a sort of a country band, and we did okay. Our first night was really good. Had lots of people there, and the guy who was previously doing it after it said, it was a real success night, but we didn't want that to happen, and you're screwing up our plan. So this guy knocked on our door at 4:00 in the morning to tell us that we had to stay away, and that we are messing up, because the idea was that this guy's going to hand this club to us, and it's going to be a terrible failure, and therefore these guys would come back, the other guys would come back to rescue it. But of course, we had a good success on the first night.
Oh my God!
And this guy came around at 4:00 in the morning saying, "Look, you shouldn't do it. You can't do it. You've got to stay away from this. This is messing up our plan."
Blimey! Was it Mel Brooks who did that one, "Springtime for Hitler"? There was a famous play, didn't he? Mel Brooks did, where he was trying to lose money on a production.
Yeah,
made it so bad, but then people started to like it.
Yeah, the producers, yeah. But we had a good crowd, because I guess it was the first night thing, which always happens. You kind of launch something, but we could have kept going, but we kind of we got kind of put off with this guy coming around at 4:00 in the morning telling us that we were messing up his game, Anyway, so we didn't do that much after that, but around quite a long time, and then we remember like the Dream Brides. Did a couple of on and off gigs. We did a reunion in '95, I think, which is, I think, one of the best gigs we ever did. It's fantastic, did it at the garage.
Right. God.
And I thought that was one of.
Was there a particular reason? Was it to promote a compilation?
A compilation was coming out on
right.
Overground Records, a CD, and I think we just did it to promote that. And I thought that was one of the best gigs we ever done. It was a fantastic crowd of people who'd probably never seen the band and never seen the band for such a long time, nearly 9 years or whatever.
Yes.
And we had, like a lot of our friends there we hadn't seen for ages. But the guy gave it Melody Maker was the only one that reviewed it. And the guy just gave it such a rubbish review. I think it just put the band off, I think. It was like really, one of those things where you pick on people and make personal comments and all that. And it's just a really rotten review. And it didn't reflect the gig that we did. And I think we were just so disappointed. Because I thought, hey, we could carry on doing this. But,
yes.
But no, I think it largely knocked the stuffing out of that review, which maybe you shouldn't pay that much attention to reviews, particularly if you had a great night and they didn't represent what you had. It wouldn't be. I think if it had been a terrible night, I think you probably would be in your right mind to say, let's not do that anymore. But it wasn't. It was a fantastic gig. I remember
what
that.
A shame.
One of my favourite ever Dream Brides gigs.
God, did anybody record it? Was any?
No, I don't know. It probably would have sounded terrible. But we had a fantastic rhythm section. Damien O'Neill and Kieran from that Petrol Emotion, they play their rhythm section, and they kind of held us all together. I think. I think that's probably why we sounded so good.
Splendid stuff.
Yeah.
So then, so how did you then navigate your late 90s then after the?
Well, then we did. I think we might have done one or two other June. Oh no, the next June Bride gig I think was when most of the band were 40. That was 2002. So it was a 7-year gap. No, between I was kind of just doing stuff with Annie, and later on I got married in Las Vegas with Annie in '98. So me and the singer from Transylvania Mania, yeah, we got married, yeah, so yeah, we got married in Las Vegas, and
did you go to the Little White Chapel then?
Yeah, it was, it was Little White Chapel, yeah.
Little White Chapel, yes. Did you do a drive-through, or did you sort of?
No, we got married properly. But there's our videos on you look on our Facebook page. It'll still be recent because I upload it on 22nd of July every year, so you'll see our wedding video.
Oh, on Facebook.
Yeah, it's on my Facebook page.
Well, this is excellent, actually. So that was you and Annie.
Yeah, So 22nd of July, if you flick back to 20, you'll see the video.
Yes, to the moment it all happened. How beautiful.
Yeah, so we shot it on really primitive. It's a shame I can't find the tapes anymore because we shot it on really primitive equipment. I think the pixel depth is about 60 pixels or something like that. So it's a real shame that I can't kind of upscale it now or recut it at a much better rate, because then, in 98, but 98, 99, the computer video was kind of in its infancy. So that's what we got,
Well, how incredible! So that was, yes. Kind of, I'm still sort of taking in your Vegas moment, actually, because I suppose at that stage, Vegas, they hadn't got Cirque du Soleil, had they? They were still, I don't know.
Well, I think that was maybe it wasn't. It had Siegfried and Roy. At the time, it was kind of trying to go away from the kind of sleazy kind of image it had, and tried to turn it into more of a family, to attract families. So it was much of a nicer place to go to. It had like the Strip and where's the place? The other place where they had like
Fremont Street.
Yeah, Fremont Street. That's it. Yeah, Fremont Street, where they had this kind of overhead projection of lights and all that sort of thing. So then it was quite nice. We spent you wouldn't want to spend more than about 3 days there. We spent about 3 days there, and then we moved elsewhere. But I think there's another video you'll see on there if you go thick through my Facebook. Another one we did of us, because we recorded a song in Nashville, a version of Sin City in Nashville. And we took a few hours in the studio to record a version of Sin City. And we shot a video for that as well. So you can have a flick back, you'll see some stuff on there.
Well, absolutely. Well, this is very exciting. I'm still digesting it. So yes, so that's that period. God, I know this is very good, isn't it? So the O years, we get into the 2000s. So are you still sort of into any musical sort of combos at this stage?
Yeah, at the time, I think Annie was kind of doing a thing with kind of performance workshop and I was kind of helping out doing that, playing guitar on with some of the people who were singing in that. But largely, no, from about 2001 to 2005, I didn't think I did any music, because we just bought a house and I was teaching myself carpentry to cut down on some of the bills, to build some wardrobes and all that sort of thing. So largely, I was doing a lot of kind of DIY work and busy on that sort of. That's what I did in Wallace for 5 years, to try and get this house into shape.
Yes.
So like for instance, yes, like you can see this. You can see this kind of bookshelf thing, and this table were the things that I made. That's what I was doing for about 5 years anyway. And then 2005, it all kind of restarts for me. And Annie as well. We there was a ongoing acoustic club called the Easy Come.
Yes.
In Nunhead, is run by a guy called Andy Allen. Andy Allen, he's got 2 great claims of fame. He's a great musician. He's brought out some great records as well and written some great songs. But his 2 big claims of fame that everyone would know about is that his father was the guy who devised the format for Ready, Steady, Go.
Right.
and he can be seen on there. There's a great clip of Dusty Springfield doing "Every Day I Have to Cry Some," and you can see Andy as a 13-year-old dancing in the background.
Right. Well, interesting enough, I did an interview with him a few months
Andy,
ago.
yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, so because someone said, "Oh, you should get this guy. He's got some great stories," and and then he talks about his musical moment in his club, and yes.
Oh, really? That's good. Oh, Andy. That's good. Yeah, and Andy, and his other claim to fame is he was a Sex Pistol in the post Johnny Rotten. He played on Silly Thing.
Right.
Yeah. I think I think he helped him out, and he's in that Cook and Jones video as well. He appears in one of those. But essentially, those is the things that most people say. Yeah, I know about that. Whereas most people probably don't know about the Hank Dogs. But the Hank Dogs are a fantastic band. They still get together occasionally. Still like and
they're great sound. I don't know if it was Joe Boyd who produced it or not, actually.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Joe Boyd did produce it.
He did, yeah. So
they used to go, I think it was something like they wanted to buy the recording gear, because obviously once you've bought it, it's an investment, you can do what you want, but they said no, we want to go into the studio. So essentially Andy felt a bit shortchanged with that one when they recorded that with Joe Boyd.
Yes.
But they wanted to buy the recording gear, so they own it, and then I suppose they own the recordings. But
So we detour. Did you say you played at his
club? Yeah, he had an acoustic club. It's been going for years, 35 years, I think. This year, the Easy Come. It's moved around different venues. He's currently based in the old dispensary in Campbell New Road. But at the time he was playing a place called the Ivy House in Nunhead, which was formerly a pub called the Newlands Tavern. And Newlands Tavern was, for bands in the 1970s, for bands that are on the up and up, they just maybe got their first record deal. That would be the place in Southeast London they would go to, because they had quite a large room. Like, Eddie and the Hot Rods, Dr. Feelgood, they all kind of played there.
Right.
So, and it's, it's been taken over now. It's on one of those things where the community took it over to stop it being left for the developers,
Oh, good.
Yeah. So anyway,
you were playing. You got a musical combo to play there.
Yeah. Well, me and Annie just played the duet. Yeah, we started off doing music from the 1920s, and we obviously weren't good enough to play stuff like bluegrass and all that sort of thing. You've got to be a bit of a sharper instrumentalist, but rather than just strumming along. So we did pre-war country like the Carter Family. And some a bit of Hawaiian music and 1920s music largely, so that's what we were kind of doing. We did that for a few years, and then we kind of moved into. I bought a book. I read a book, a biography of Blind Willie McTell.
Right.
I read it on holiday, and they said, "Where do you get your songs from?" He goes, "Well, I hear these songs on records, and I make up." And I just make up a new set of lyrics for them. So I thought, man, it's good enough for him.
Yes.
So that's what I started doing. In fact, I took one of Blind Willie McTell's songs and wrote my own words to that, and found a couple of others. Some more obscure stuff that wasn't that famous. I mean, and we got into kind of writing our own songs, And so then, we had enough, to get going with, and also to set us apart from other people playing that sort of stuff, that same, we've got a couple of songs that are our own, and it kind of went from there. And then we, then the guy that played bass with Transylvanian Mania, a guy called Eddie Stampley, He'd been away while we got this thing going, but he came back. He was away in Switzerland. He moved there for a while, but he came back, and then we got together with him, and then the three of us started going to play together,
Right, and this is when you call yourself the Magic
City Trio, yeah, because we had a gig in Berlin, and what happened was the June Briars had gone to Berlin to play a gig there, and I'm always keen to wherever we go to bring a guitar with us as well. To see if we can find somewhere we can just turn up and play, open mic or something like that, and that's what we did. We went to this place called Artliners, and we did a couple of songs there. And they said, "Oh, come back in the summer." And so we thought, well, we were Frank and Annie. Thought, well, we got to sound like a band, So I had this old 78 record by a band called the Magic City Trio, a version of Stagger Lee. And so that sounds good, the Magic City Trio. And we had Addy play bass, and so we got over there, because we had this thing where we we'd go on holiday to the United States. We went, I think, from about 2008 to about 2016. We went on holiday to the United States. What we do is we fly over to Hawaii and work our way back and find open mics on the way back. So he played in New Mexico, Albuquerque, St. Louis, Missouri, New York, Los Angeles, Hawaii. We played in Maui, Willie Nelson's bar in Maui. So we just do these open mics, and so it's always good fun. We'd always
quite. That's a great idea. And did you only just go to Vegas that once when you got married, or did you?
No, we went back in. I think that the year I did the little tour with Phil, and that was. I think it's 2008. Yeah, 2008. And now he had gone back to the kind of the sleaziness thing. They'd realised the family thing didn't kind of bring enough gamblers in, so they'd gone back to the sleazy kind of atmosphere.
Oh, so you went there with Phil to do?
I did. Yeah, Phil did a short. This is how I got back with Phil, because I kind of we had a gig, I think, at a thing called How's It Feel to Feel, which was a little indie club, and he is like he is a DJ and playing mostly records, indie records. And Phil said we got us a gig there, and I thought, well, I don't want to play literally second fiddle to a DJ and a record player. I said, no, I don't want to do that. And Phil took us, I don't want to play in the June Boys ever. So we didn't see each other for a good few years. And then I found out he put something up on MySpace, I think, for his he planning to put out on his Jimmy Kennedy.
Right.
So I listened to it and I said, I can do some stuff on that. And I sent it back to him and said, what do you think? And that's how we kind of got back together again. We did a couple of gigs over here, and he had this thing lined up where he's going to do again, I think, San Francisco and Los Angeles, I think. It wasn't that much. Oh, and Santa Fe.
Right.
No, not Santa Fe, it's New Mexico, Sacramento. And he had a couple of gigs there. And and I went and we played. And that's how me and Phil kind of got back to playing together again,
Nice.
And then we kind of stayed with it. Whatever he did some gigs back in England with Phil, Arash, a drummer called Andy, and the four of us. We were kind of the new Phil Wilson band and that sort of thing. And Arash said, well, if Dave Gedge goes out as Dave Gedge, no one goes to see him. But if he goes out as a wedding present, loads of people go and see him. So he said, why don't we go out as June Brides? And Phil didn't feel right about it. He didn't. Simon wasn't there and John wasn't there. Well, it wasn't kind of the June Brides, So Phil didn't want to do this. But eventually, we got Simon back and John as well. And I think our first gig was at June Brides. It was a place over in Stoke Newington, a kind of a gig over in supporting a German band called Traum. And that's how we got back to being the June Brides again. I can't remember that was actually probably early 2009 maybe.
Right, so I got it. Yes.
And no, it couldn't have been that, because I think it must have been after that, because we did another trip to the United States in 2011.
Did many people in America know of the June Brides, by the way? Or were they going because it was a club night and they just said, well, it's a band from England? And
I don't know, actually.
I just wondered how the June Brides went down.
We did go down fine, people did like us, definitely.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I think maybe having the stuff, the viola and the trumpet was kind of set us apart from other guitar bands they might have seen and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think second time we supporting the Undertones. The Undertones, I think, this is largely the band without Fergal, obviously singing. And I think somebody shouted out for Alternative Ulcer, and the singer said, wrong band.
Yes. Well, quite, not even close, really.
No, in terms of cities, no. I suppose they're in the same part of the world, but they're not close at all, and they're not close musically. I think in terms of how the Undertones are regarded as writing great pop songs, and Stiff Little Fingers, not they had a good run, and a lot of people liked them. Yeah, not my cup of tea in terms of
I
music.
quite like Barbed Wire Love. I thought it was quite a good song. But Annie, just going back to Annie, she was in an indie band in the 80s, Annie and the Aeroplanes.
Yeah, she's in
which
that.
did one single, A Million Zillion Miles.
Yeah, that's it.
And the B-side Traveling song on Pipe Dream Records, which frankly only did one record.
It was, I think it's their own label, I think.
It is their own label. So Annie's little brush with indie pop of the 80s as well there.
Yeah, that came out at 88, the band, the songs like kind of in that Shop Assistant Primitives kind of thing, very much kind of good 3-chord chuggers and all that sort of thing. We did Nanny and the Aeroplane song on the Magic City Trio second LP. We put one on there. And that record, it was kind of I don't know, it's fetching upwards of, I think it's going for 25 quid occasionally on Discogs. But I discovered that I cached them in our loft, and I flooded the market with them to bring down the price for anyone who wants it.
Yeah, that would have. Well, it's nice. Did any of them go abroad? By the way,
who's that? Well, the band or the records?
No, the records. Did anybody want to buy a copy?
Yeah. Quite a few of them are sold abroad. I think I sold some in Japan and that.
Brilliant. Yes. Well, that's good. That's dedicated.
I think they're going slowly, but they're going. It's kind of sad though. When you bring out a record yourself, you want to sell them all. But when you sell them all, you think you're kind of a bit sad as well because unless somebody's going to spring up and say, "Hey, I want to bring out your record again," you're not going to do it again.
No.
And that's with the Magic City Trio. Like our first EP is practically sold out. I've got one copy in a box that says "Do not sell," and same with our first LP. Same thing. I'm down to the kind of the end copies. I've got about 2 or 3 left, and we got 75 copies of the second LP, and they're going to kind of gradually go. But once you've sold them all, you think, they're gone now.
I know it's a tricky one. So was the first EP a Funnel Cloud in Albuquerque?
That's right. Yeah.
So that was the first one. Yeah. So this was 2015, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So yes, so that was. So what were they? The main band that you had as we turned the millennium was there any other musical projects you had at that time?
No, well, as I say, turn the millennium. I wasn't doing any music for that 5 years, 2000 to 2005.
You were doing your DIY.
I was doing DIY. No, Annie and I got together just playing as a duo. Then we kind of just we did more and more gigs. I think by New Year's Eve this year we've done 320. We could have got to 350 had not been for COVID, No, it gradually picked up. We started just doing local things and then doing more and more. We had a residency at the Boogaloo pub in 2019, and that and that kind of fun. The gigs that were doing were funding the records,
Yes.
And so the Funnel Cloud is a true story. But what happened? Me and Annie went to do an open mic in Albuquerque, and the guy who ran the B&B said, they were quite religious, and they said, "I wish we had some rain." They hadn't had rain for ages, and that night a funnel cloud, which is like a twister, which doesn't actually come down, but they cause a lot of devastation. This thing came down, this funnel cloud, and all the places in the song happened, and all the things in the song happened, and with the record came a little book with a map of all the places that are mentioned in the song, and and it was like it really happened. It's one of those true story songs,
God, that's fantastic little number actually. And then you followed that one up with Black Dog Following Me.
We'd recorded that. I'd made a start on that for ages ago. Like coming home from the Lee Hazelwood concert in 2002, I'd started it, but I didn't have the at the time I didn't have the computer programs or. Because obviously I wanted an orchestra on it, and I couldn't afford to pay for one, so I had to. And the computer samples, they weren't good enough in 2002, so I didn't really do much with it, just, and there's only, as time goes on, you get some decent samples that make recordings that sound like, orchestral pop or whatever, and sound, fairly convincing, as orchestral pop, even though they're probably a lot better now than I use them. But yeah, that's what I had, and that became the key track, and then we kind of did some more songs, and we kind of put the LP together with arrangement of a traditional song.
Yes, and
that
then
the Everly Brothers have done.
and then they're the tracks that go onto your first album as the Magic City Trio, which is so. Is that a musical project that you're still running to this day?
Yeah. I say we're doing gigs. Now the band is not three of us. It's a 7-piece band with 2 trumpets, a guy called Jeff Mead who 2 trumpets called Dave Howell and Mike Cook, and a guy called Jeff Mead who's he's played with loads of people like he's pretty on the sort of pub rock circuit, and he's a guitarist in demand, and he's great. He's playing with us, for his share of the but the share of the gate money on the when we play, he's got another gig with Sarah Vista, who does kind of similar stuff to us, like sort of like a spaghetti western influence kind of country music rather than sort of die-hard Americana, and but he played with loads of people. Everyone said, "What, you got Jeff Mead playing with you?" Oh God, that's great, and
yes.
and a guy called Pat Horgan, who Jeff knew, who I've known since I was at school, and a guy called Matt Lloyd, and we cast my mind back to the guy who I met who said, "Hey, how about joining the Greenwich Performance Collective?" That was him.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so it's kind of like they're long-time friends,
That's a complete of the circle on that one.
The guy, so we've been sort of like it's an ongoing thing. It's a 7-piece band, and if we do any record launches, I don't know if we'll do another record, but we probably will. I think if we can just find one that'll do smaller numbers. We sell our records mostly at gigs once you've sold that first gig's worth, or the launch gig, you'll sell maybe 30, 35. But after that, it's a hard slog of selling them. And I don't think we're going to be around long enough to sell another 250 records. I don't think there's enough gigs that we can do, So,
well, it is tricky because we once published a book on some event that we used to organise, and the printer said, "Oh, you can get this amount for 5. Yeah, spend this for 500, but for a little bit more, you can have 1,000." And you thought, God, perhaps we should do 1,000 because it's going to be so popular. But unfortunately, it's the extra 500 that sit under the bed.
Yeah, it's the unit price goes down. That's the only thing.
Oh, they tempt you with that unit price, and
you can sell them for cheaper. That means you'll sell more. But
and it's not double the money to get that extra 500.
No, it isn't.
Just a little bit more, but
yeah.
You just think, I wish we hadn't done that because
I think what happens is that the expensive bit is the book binding and the setting up for the plates to print it.
Yeah.
And I think the paper is a cheap bit, so that's why it never costs as much to do another 500 because essentially you've done all the work on the first 500.
Yeah.
That costs money, because I'm funny enough, like I'm chatting to a guy called Brian O'Neill who runs a record label called Dimple Disc.
Yes, I've come across them, and they've had some good releases. Was he connected with the Undertones? And
he's good friends with I don't think he's related to them, but he's good friends like with Damien and Kieran and Raymond, people over here, and also John as well, and he said because he does records actually sell to people who know who the artists are, not like us. But he did that record with Jar Wobble, and he's done with a great record recently with a guy called Jer Eaton. And I said to Brian, Brian said, "I've managed to get my unit cost down to about £7." I said, "I managed to get mine up to 11." Because of the very elaborate packaging I tend to go for in our records, like books and all sorts of stuff, it's what's it like? It's kind of fun bringing out your own record because you have to have that kind of element of control. But on the other hand, if the boring part starts when You've done all the fantastic creative stuff like recording it. I do, doing the uh, uh, doing the artwork and the book and all that sort of thing. And but when you have to do the horrible donkey work of promoting the bloody thing, that's what I really hate.
Yes.
And I think Brian's got somebody who can do that for him, which makes it very good and makes his stuff could go easily. Yeah, I think it's one of his more recent records. Jer Eaton, Season Changes, very much kind of orchestral, kind of acoustic folk, like Nick Drake, though. I think that I say everything like Nick Drake is a bit of an easy thing to say. He's got his own sound, And I went to see his launch in Dublin. Yeah, it's funny. Like he had like a 13-piece band, and he managed to get the National Concert Hall in Dublin to launch his record. But unfortunately, I have an 11-piece band to launch my record. I have to contend with the local pub in Deptford. It's the only pub that's wide enough to fit everyone in, 11 people in, because say when we do the record launch, you have a lot more people playing in the band, But we shrink it down to 7 as a working sort of unit,
Well, yes. There you go. But, so what was that guy on Dimple Disc? What was his name again? Duncan?
Duncan Maitland. Yeah, he's got a record coming out on soon, I think. And Duncan, great songwriter. He played with a band called Picture House in I think in the 90s, I think in Dublin. But his record Lullabies for the 21st Century. I thought was a great record. Like it's got some great audio tricks and great songs. So you like that kind of psychedelic stuff, but with great songwriting, not all the guitar jamming and all that sort of thing. Really structured, well arranged stuff. Yeah, Duncan Maitland and Jer Eaton. Good stuff to kind of look up. Yeah.
Yes, well, I will. But then you also you mentioned a long time ago, the Jasmine Minx, because you've been working again with Jim.
Oh, with Jim Shepherd.
Shepherd and Pillows of Creation, really, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you've been on several of his releases.
Yeah, I did 2 releases. In fact, I didn't do much on the second one. I did a bit more on the first one. And I did something on the Jasmine Minx, not the one about You Make Your Own History, not the one that they got one coming out, but I'd say it is one You Make Your Own History, which is one of the greatest titles for a record, I think. But yeah, with Jim, Jim just contacted me, and I think at the time, I was recording my own LP, I think. But so I took time out to do that, and it's a lot of fun. Also, again, doing stuff that's different. Particularly, doing stuff that's different from your own and different from other people.
Well, yes, such nice guy.
And we did a couple of gigs to promote it. Again, it's nice to sit back and just play the guitar rather than have to sing and do other stuff like that, and be the front person,
Well, yes, you can just enjoy being in the slipstream, which is a good one. But then you also, you've been quite prolific because the June Brides. Then you've done a couple of gigs. You did one in Barcelona in 16, but also these
Glasgow's Pop. Yeah.
Yes, but then this year in Dublin, supporting Belle and Sebastian.
Yeah.
So was that? Did that take much organising for the band to get?
We heard about it. I think around the end of last year that Phil had an offer. I think they were kind of doing. I think they were touring not a new LP. They're doing one of these things where, I think their first LP they're playing all the tracks from it. I think this was their second. I think I don't know much about them. But I think might be their second LP they were touring with. And they contacted Phil and said, do you want to do a gig at the Albert Hall? And of course I said, yeah, that's great, But unfortunately, I think what it was some mix-up that I think the band each member of the band had asked different people to do different gigs. And I think the Loft had already been asked to do the Albert Hall. Of course, they said, yes, we'll do that. And so the next gig left, I think next nearest gig possibly was Dublin.
Right.
So we did Dublin. And it was great fun, it was a great, lovely venue. And it was a sort of great concert. And the organising, the organising was a rehearsal over there, but also we couldn't, because we had to fly over there to keep the costs down, and we couldn't bring all our gear over there. So yes, Joe Eaton, who I just mentioned, he helped us out and got a backline for us. Yes, so that's how that was sorted out. That's how it was organised.
Did you have much? Did it take much to get the set list and get all the songs nicely crafted to reproduce them, or at least make them sound good?
I don't know. It's kind of a bit of muscle memory comes in. Like I think I think those songs. Like, okay, we did. I guess in our time we did 150 gigs of June Brides, and I think now they've been with me so long that they're kind of quite easy to get back into the flow. We had two rehearsals. I rehearsed out in Plymouth with Phil and Arash and Simon, the drummer, and John didn't come to that one, and we had another one in Dublin, and that was effectively it. That was our rehearsals,
Right.
You could always do it more, but I think we were that familiar with the songs. We weren't there to learn the songs. We were just there to relearn them,
Yes.
I think muscle memory comes in, and I don't know, maybe they do say that as you get older, you forget certain things, but music is supposed to be one of those things that stays with you because the muscle memory or whatever, which I hope it does. I mean, people, I'll still be able to play music. That's if I want to. Again, but yeah,
did it feel magical being on stage doing the June Bride stuff again?
It's fun. I say it's. I like that. I think I'd be a bit to say. Oh, I do. I've done a lot more gigs with the Magic City Trio.
Yes.
I think it'd be petty to say, "Hey, it was just another gig for me, man." No, it's kind of nice to be back with Bill and Arash and John and Simon and all that, playing with them. Sometimes I think that sometimes I can't hear myself. I think we had a drummer, Steve, before. He was the guy before Simon. I think he said the June Brides were the loudest band he ever played with. So no wonder I'm struggling to hear myself sometimes. But no, it is fun, and it's fun to get together, have a few pints and all that sort of thing. And it is fun. I don't see Phil very often. I think first time I've seen him, a good few years. I think probably 4 or 5 years, and you just kind of get back on things quite quickly. You kind of pick up where you left off.
Yes.
Simon Bees I see regularly rather than often, because he doesn't live far from me. So, and John lives in Tooting, which is a bit of a distance away. But so I don't see them that often. But we stay in contact with Facebook and all that sort of thing.
Oh yes. So going forward, then you obviously got the Magic City Trio. You got live dates and the potential of a new album. Is there any other little bits and pieces you've got working away in the background?
Well, there's a band called Beat Hotel, which is a kind of a indie super group. We've brought out a couple of records before, and I've recorded some stuff for Beat Hotel. Beat Hotel has got Arash from the June Brides, by called Paul Pascoe and Dave Morgan plays drums, and they've done a record already with Jim Shepard. So we kind of get together, and I think they're trying to get somebody to release their next LP. So as I said, I was hoping to get to 90 records, but with Whiplash that I've appeared on, including compilations. But now I have got to 90 because that Meet Whiplash compilation brings it to 90. So
right.
So with the if the Beat Hotel record comes out, that'll be 91, so maybe I could get to 100. I don't know, because I just one thing I did notice I went through the because I said I compiled a list of things I'd done since we contacted each other last in 2016, and there seems to be there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There's about 20 releases that had my name on them. Nearly, apart from the COVID year, nearly every year since 2016, a record has come out that I played on. Which kind of surprised me. I didn't think I was doing that much, or people are releasing that much. It's kind of nice to see the Motorcycle Boy record come out.
Yes, on the Precious Recordings.
Yeah, because for Nick to bring that out. And I think, but I was tinged with a bit of sadness because I found that Alex and Eddie had both passed on, which was kind of sad, And same thing with the Eddie is in the end of 24, I think. So I don't know whether he also knew that would have been aware of that Meet Whiplash compilation was coming out, because that came out. No, I think he passed on in 23, end of 23, and that came out at the end of 24. So there is a track on it that's remixed by him. So maybe he knew the record was coming out. So, it's kind of, I like Meet Whiplash. We kind of got on really well, when I did that session with him, that kind of wasn't released. So it's kind of nice that an LP has come out, Meet Whiplash, rather than have this stuff languishing on the back of a Creation box set, So it's I'm quite glad. And also they reproduced that iconic sleeve with the picture of Robert Vaughan on it in a big format LP. So I'm really glad that that's come out, Anyway, so that was record 200, the record number 90 that I have here on. So got the Beat Hotel, and maybe I'll bring out some more. I probably might re-release our Christmas record this year, because we always keep forgetting, but I'll probably have to get moving on that now.
Well, yes,
we do a kind of limited press of that, since we don't want 100 Christmas records hanging around for the rest of the year. So we only do what we call a hand cut, where what happens is you get somebody to cut 5 copies, and if he's only got one cutter, he has to listen to our record 5 times. No wonder they're so expensive to make, But I might do that, And so hopefully there'll be other people maybe to play on their music. If Jim brings out another record, a friend of mine, Tony Jenkins, he's got a band called Kobayashi Bookstore, and he had a band called New Fools, and hopefully he'll get something together.
God, he's very prolific, actually, isn't he?
So, Tony. Yes, Tony Jenkins. Oh, you know him.
Pardon?
You know Tony Jenkins?
Yeah, I think I've done an interview with him as well.
Brilliant.
Yes, I know. It's like the indie world is fascinating. I think. And
so one I've done recently, Martin Howard, Dinosaurs, which we did it as kind of I think what we talked about almost January 25. I said I'd like to have a record out on Kailua Recordings to show it's not a one artist label. So Martin said, I'll bring out a record. He said he'll pay for everything, but as long as he can use my label to stick on it. So now I can say I'm not a one artist label. So record Dinosaurs, I don't know, have a listen out for it. He's probably got it on Bandcamp. Yeah, I play on the songs and did some arrangements for it. It's kind of post-punk, but not just guitar thrashing stuff, But quite good songs. But have a listen, and kind of the arrangements, are kind of quirky for that type of music, So you use a vibraphone on some of the tracks, gives it kind of a lounge jazz kind of feel, But so check it out. And Dinosaurs by Martin Howard and the Cretaceous 3. So I've plugged all the records of my friends. Oh, and then also, one of the gigs, we're playing a songwriters night on the 6th. Where about you live, David?
It is Norwich, I'm afraid.
Oh, you are in Norwich still. Okay.
We are a little bit far away, aren't we?
So we do we go to sort of a regular club over in West End, called the Country Soul Sessions, run by a guy called Drew Morrison, and his band, Drew Morrison and the Black Hearts, brought out an LP, and they're a fantastic band. And they play it's kind of like the house band, But say we're doing a night there on the 6th of September. It's not going to be the big band. It'll be just me, Annie, and Dave, our trumpet player, and mandolin, to give us a bit of colour on that. But there's other people on. So if I say Drew's been running the Country Soul Sessions, for a good few years. I discovered it in 2019. It's been going quite a while, and it's got a great reputation for putting on kind of a lot of kind of lots of like country tinge music, also like rock and roll and sort of dance bands and things like that. So definitely worth, if you're in London, checking out the first Sunday of the month mostly.
Fantastic. Well, this is good. And is the best place to find out what you're up to is your Facebook page? Is that
probably, because we had I had a website, but the website didn't do much, and the only thing I had on there was a list of our gigs. But somebody said, "Oh, I don't know when you're playing next now," because people did look at that. And but I didn't want to pay £200 a year. I didn't. I would have paid it had it been in instalments. But they wanted £200 up front. I said, "Look,
Yes.
I just went off the idea." So I've moved to another provider, but I've not been motivated yet to get the website going. They even keep ringing me up saying, "You're paying for this website, but you haven't done anything with it. You haven't even uploaded a single page." But I should do it, just really as a record of what the band are doing and some new pictures. But Facebook is the place to see us. Yeah,
It's all there, isn't it? Yes, I was just seeing your. Yes, there's a lot of interesting stuff there, Frank. So I'll have to do.
And so I don't know whether I'm going to buy any more guitars. I don't know. You saw my guitar.
I did see your page of guitars actually, which is
So because the last two, the Gretsch I bought, the new Gretsch I bought for Annie, but the last two pre-war guitars, they were the last ones on my list. And I don't know what other guitars I'd want to buy, so I don't think I will be buying any more guitars unless something comes up that's the bargain of a lifetime or something like that. But those two guitars were the last ones I had on my list to buy, so and I keep and I'll probably hold on to. But say the Gretsch White Falcon is the one we use most of the time.
Right,
and the one, both of the two Gretsch with my name on, I tend to use most.
They're beautiful done, aren't they? Annie and Frank Sweeney. That is so nice, aren't they? Fantastic. So yes, well, look, Frank, this has been amazing.
It's been lovely talking to you.
Absolutely.
Go through my entire musical history.
I've got the story here. No, I've got the whole. But look, thank you ever so much. I have been listening because you're actually also on Spotify quite a bit as well, aren't you? So
we're on Spotify. You can hear our music on Spotify, or you can buy our records you can send us a message via Facebook. Via Facebook. That's the best way to get our records. Do you play any music on
yes, we do. I do have a show which plays tracks, and I think you sent me some MP3s of definitely the June Brides many years ago, which I have been playing a lot of the June Bride stuff. I hope that you never. It's just, I mean, do the band own the music and the publishing and all that stuff?
Yes.
So do you get a £20 check a year for royalties?
I get more than that. We get,
fantastic.
Yeah, we get mostly from not sales, because obviously we sell records ourselves. We get all the money back from the records, but but from royalties, about every 3 months, every quarter, most of the time something between 30 and £100. But funnily enough, on two occasions. I got £700 royalties, and what it is, each song has has what is known as a tune code, which is a number, like I think an 8-digit number, and I'm convinced that there's another record that has a tune code that's very similar to ours, and they typed in the wrong digit, and our song got the money. But it's possible that most of the time, this band or this artist probably got so much money that they didn't miss 700 quid. That's what I'm thinking, because I couldn't see how we could have made 700 quid, and most of the time it's about 30 or 30.
Well, that's quite nice to know.
You're hoping that maybe that you have a record or a song that has the same similar tune code to something like Thriller by Michael Jackson, or something by Taylor Swift, so that you'll end up getting so much money, and then and Taylor Swift gets so much anyway, she'll never notice.
She wouldn't even.
But I think that's what's happened when those two big paydays, But most of the time, we get most of our things also from playing live gigs, because we do 12 of the band's songs. That's 12 that count as royalties.
Yes.
I don't know where we get that much airplay on radio stations. A bit on Spotify, but as we know, the rate on Spotify, a third of a penny.
Does it ever tell you where your songs are getting played?
You can
on the radio.
I've got you'll say that, and also I've got the only publishers I've got are and it's only for stuff they publish is CD Baby, and they will upload stuff onto YouTube, and the stuff they upload and it gets played, they collect the royalties for that, and they get a bit, but it takes ages to get any money out of them. Because I've got a threshold. My threshold is on like £200 before they pay something, and because of Spotify, you're getting a third of a penny per play.
Yeah.
It just takes. It's going to take years, honestly.
Yes, I mean, now you're into retirement. I mean, it's going to be you'll be hitting. Yes, it's going to be a long time.
Yeah, I don't know whether the band whether how long the band will last. Everyone seems to be keen on doing it. I don't know whether at some stage you can say, look, I've had enough of this.
I know,
but somebody says to me, yeah, but what else are you going to do?
Indeed, this is true, and gardening has now become a waste of time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't think, and it's, okay, maybe I could go into guitar retailing. I've got that many. I don't know really, but I think the June Brides are planning maybe one more in London. I think I don't know whether that'd be a last gig. At one point I thought maybe the Glasgow Pop was going to be a last gig, but obviously you get a nice offer from Bell and Sebastian to play in Dublin. You're going to take it up. So I think we'll try and get a gig in London later. We're planning November, but that looks like that ship seems to have sailed. I think it's getting too close to November now to arrange something. Probably look for something maybe early in the New Year or something like that. We can find something. Maybe the Lexington or something like that.
Wow, exciting times.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get something. So say hello to everyone out there who like the June Brides music and like the Magic City Trio music and any music that I've ever played on.
Well, yes, I was just looking at some of these Bandcamp pages. There's a lot, isn't there? Yes. Well, look, Frank, thank you ever so much for this. It's been amazing, and I'll keep in touch. But take care, and all the best for your next musical moments.
All right, God, that's nearly 2 hours. I didn't think we'd be talking that long. that's
Indeed. Actually, you're right. It's time for bed.
Yeah.
Yes, and say hi to Bertie from me.
I'll say hi to Annie as well.
Yes, definitely Annie, but Bertie.
Yeah.
Have you just got the one cat?
Yeah, we got it. Yeah, we got him from Battersea Cat's home about 2 years ago. He's a very strange cat, weird behaviour, honestly. Yeah, very weird.
Do you keep him indoors all the time?
Oh, he's got a cat door. He goes out in the garden and defends his space. Yeah.
Go Bertie.
Yeah, he seems to get on with the foxes. Okay, but a couple of weeks ago, early July, I heard him, yelling at another cat. I never heard him so angry and kind of weird. And he spent the whole month in the kitchen. They never left the kitchen, standing guard, obviously. Well, Bertie, I also say hello to Bertie.
I will say, yeah. Okay, look, take care.
I'll speak to you, David. All the best then.
Yeah, all the best. See you later.
See you in 10 years, maybe. We'll catch up.
We'll catch up before then. Okay, see you later.
Bye-bye. Bye.
And that was me in conversation with Frank Sweeney talking about his life in music. This has been the C86 show. David Eastaugh. Have a great week. Stay safe.